In 2013, Andrew forced a U-turn on the government over its plans for military intervention in Syria. Nor is he afraid to speak truth to power. 3 weeks before the EU referendum in 2016, he declared that David Cameron's position was untenable. The key to Andrew's success is that he stays close to the people he serves. Andrew has also campaigned to restore the integrity of the House of Commons and remove Speaker Bercow from office. In July 2018, Andrew submitted his letter of no confidence in Theresa May. He declared she should be replaced as leader of the Conservative Party, as her promises over leaving the EU are all pretence and a charade. To dupe the electorate, which is an insult to the electorate's intelligence. Ladies and gentlemen, could you please welcome a great campaigner and a great parliamentarian, Andrew Bridgen MP.
Thank you very much, Chairman, for that introduction. I must start with a slight correction. Yes, I did get parliamentary support across the parliamentary spectrum, from Jeremy Corbyn and John McDonnell to David Davis and John Redwood and everyone in between, to decriminalise non-payment of the TV licence. I got it incorporated into the deregulation bill in 2014, almost unheard of at committee stage to get an amendment accepted and approved by the House. But of course, as we know, that was negotiated away by one George Osborne in return for the BBC taking on liability for the over 75's concessional licence fee. So unfortunately, by the weakness of previous chancellors and their greed, actually, we've ended up in a situation where it is still a criminal offence, unfortunately, despite the fact that it's an anachronism to not pay the £145 a year BBC TV tax. It seems traditional now to start with a joke. There aren't many jokes flying around Parliament at the moment. It's fair to say that the feeling of the public, the electorate towards Parliament has never been lower. In fact, that was confirmed by the Hansard representatives in an interview I did for Politics Live yesterday. But what I'll start with is actually a true story. We're going to have a leadership election soon. Theresa May cannot go on forever. She's already gone on far too long and done far too much damage to our country, our democracy and the Conservative Party already. It's going to be a very crowded field. There are many leadership contenders out there, many people positioning for places in the new cabinet when the dust settles. And my story is a true story. It was recounted by someone who was there. And one of these candidates, who will remain nameless, was in the green room at New Broadcasting House 2 weeks ago. And he said to the journalist who was going to be on the programme with him, well, we're going into makeup now. That's the bit I really hate, you know. I really hate that. And she was sitting next to him in makeup, and the makeup artist came to see my colleague, looked at him and said, actually, you don't need much, you've got plenty on already. And they wonder why people don't believe politicians anymore. It is going to be a packed race for the next leader of the Conservative Party. I think one of those reasons is that the current incumbent has done such an appallingly bad job that I believe even the tea lady at number 10 fancies her chances of doing a better job. Ladies and gentlemen, I was elected to represent a constituency I took from the Socialists, my home, in 2010. And I remember the feeling in 2010, as the newly elected MP for North West Leicestershire, how proud I felt walking in to the House of Commons, the building opposite the Mother of all Parliaments. I had the honour to be selected to leave the campaign to leave in the East Midlands. I campaigned against the MP for Rushcliffe, a great campaigner, and someone who, as a child, I'd looked up to, Ken Clarke, father of the house. I debated with him, I attended the TV interviews with him, we went on the radio against each other, we did everything, we did all the campaigning in the East Midlands, the hustings, and the East Midlands voted by 59 to 41 to leave. My own seat of North West Leicestershire voted by 61 to 39, and although I'd been returned twice as the MP and I was sitting on 11,200 majority after 2015, I told my electorate that this was the big question of our lifetime, of my political career, however long that went on. And I made it clear to my people in North West Leicestershire, if they didn't back me in the referendum, I couldn't carry on being their MP, because on the big question, the future of our country, our nation and our democracy, we didn't agree with each other. And that would have left my position completely untenable. But they did. They voted 61 to 39 to leave the European Union. And when I analysed the results for the East Midlands, and Ken Clarke stands up there as the father of the house, called by the Speaker in preference, as is his position as the most experienced MP, he stands up there as if he has that legitimacy in the East Midlands, when the fact is that realistically the only constituency that voted to remain in the whole of the East Midlands was Ken Clarke's seat himself in Rushcliffe. And the majority for remain in that seat was less than the majority for leave in my seat next door. Now, if you look at the figures, in the centre of Leicester, the 3 Labour seats in the centre of Leicester, Leicester City, nominally they voted to remain by 1,500 votes across a 250,000 electorate. But I'm pretty sure that the member for Leicester East, Keith Vaz, has got quite a few dodgy postal ballots, so I'll discount that result immediately. So I was tremendously proud when, as a nation, we chose, despite the fact that that was not a fair referendum, the deck was completely stacked against leave. Every major political party, and I remember saying to David Cameron that I objected to him drafting 2 more of the most experienced civil servants onto the Remain campaign during the Purdah period, that it was unconstitutional. And I was told by number 10, 200. He said, we've got every single civil servant in the country working for Remain, I can assure you. So it wasn't a fair referendum, it was a stacked deck. The Remain campaign outspent leave by £2 for every one. And yet we won. And again, I was so proud of my country, my part in that, my colleagues, but mostly my constituents who backed me, backed leaving the European Union, backed democracy. And I walked back into Parliament again, bursting with pride. What I will tell you, ladies and gentlemen, is the shenanigans that have been going on over the last 12 months in that Parliament have made me ashamed to be part of it, and part of what will be seen as a huge betrayal of our country and of our democracy. The reason I chose to campaign and vote to leave was actually really quite simple. It wasn't about immigration or any of that. I had a very simple definition for anywhere on the doorsteps in North West Leicestershire. I just say, look, I want to be in a situation where the people of North West Leicestershire and every other constituency can vote for a member of Parliament who actually makes and votes on all of their laws, who can be held accountable to the people who put me in Parliament, and if they don't like the laws that I'm passing in their name, then they vote me out and bring in someone else. It's not very complicated. And what we've actually got now is a huge betrayal of that democracy. And it isn't even about Brexit now. It is about the democracy of our country. I think one of the problems is the elite. They didn't want the referendum. They thought they were going to win the referendum. They never accepted the result of the referendum, and it doesn't matter what the people say. The elite are still there. And it's been very disappointing. I know through my contacts in various APPGs, quite a few foreign ambassadors who have no axe to grind in this argument, and they have been telling me for 2 years that the super elites, the super rich, the international businesses that they speak to on a regular basis have been telling them for the last 2 years that they were never, ever going to let Brexit happen. And I think what else I've seen, which is really disappointing, I think is after 46 years in the European Union, the people at the very top of our political class and our civil servants, they've lost their courage, they've lost their self-confidence. It's all hollowed out by 46 years of being in the European Union. It's hard to believe, ladies and gentlemen, that 100 years ago we ran a quarter of the globe from Westminster. I think the analogy I've used on that one is it's like we used to have a 5-star Michelin-starred restaurant as our government. We used to create these fantastic dishes from scratch. And over the years this has been corrupted and we've been de-skilled. And now we accept our laws pre-packed from Brussels, ready to go in the microwave. We've become a chicken-ding parliament with a chicken-ding politicians, quite honestly. Theresa May. I think I tweeted yesterday, I don't know if it actually went, I think it may have been kiboshed by my staff, who I put all my tweets out through my staff as a sort of filter. I don't think this one got through the filter, but I'm going to share it with you anyway. But it would appear that the Maybot has gone haywire and no one can find the off switch. And the Prime Minister, she could still save her reputation, save her position in history, the pride of our country and the Conservative Party if she were willing to take us out of the European Union on Friday with no deal. But that is not going to happen, because if she had the guts to do that and the belief to do that, we wouldn't be in the negotiating position we are today. It is fair to say these have not been negotiations, it has been a complete and unmitigated capitulation. Yesterday the 1922 committee went to go and tell the Prime Minister at number 10 that she lost the confidence of the parliamentary party, and apparently she just sat there in stony silence with no response whatsoever and let them go. It's unbelievable. I spent the weekend on the doorsteps in North West Leicestershire. I spent 4 hours canvassing on Saturday and I did 7 hours on Sunday. I was with my eldest son, who's standing in a Labour ward in Colville, one of the few Labour wards left in my constituency, and we only managed to do 300 houses because more than half the people were in. And the response on the doorstep, there is no appetite for Jeremy Corbyn. They are absolutely aghast that we're entering into negotiation with someone who for 4 years we've said is not fit to anywhere near the levers of power, and the Prime Minister herself invites him into number 10. And the problem is, ladies and gentlemen, the threat to our democracy. It's taking me 5 and 6 minutes on the doorstep to persuade one of our supporters who's voted leave in the referendum why there would be any future, any optimism in taking part in any elections, let alone district council elections, which have badly turned out anyway, at any time in the future. And I don't have 10 minutes to spend on every doorstep of my 44,000 households in North West Leicestershire. Most of the responses are that they can't understand how we've got to this position. But when I show them the arithmetic, there's 160 MPs in our Parliament that voted to leave the European Union, and there's 484 who voted to remain. And no matter how many times they tell us that they accept the referendum result, we know the way they vote in the House of Commons that they do not accept the result. There's never been such a big wedge, such a big gap between our Parliament and our people. And whether it's just the Westminster bubble or the London bubble, I don't know. But the gap in our country between London, the Westminster elite and the country is getting wider, it is not getting narrower. I've voted 3 times against the withdrawal agreement. It is not a withdrawal agreement. It is quite Orwellian that anyone would ever call it a withdrawal agreement. It is a staying in agreement. It's an agreement where the Prime Minister promised in our manifesto that we dual track the withdrawal agreement with our future partnership negotiations. What we've actually done is given the European Union everything they want, including £39 billion at least of taxpayers' money, your money. The government doesn't have any money, it's all your money, to get to a position where we might be able to one day talk about what we want. But in a position where whoever the next Prime Minister is will be completely hamstrung, because the EU have already got everything they want. We'll do 2 years in transition where we're, for the first time in our history, a large proportion of our laws will be made by a foreign power over which we have absolutely no influence. And if you think that that won't be extended to 4 years, because while we're in the transition period, we're fully paying into the European Union, so of course that will be extended to 4 years. And the European Union, you can already hear them saying, well, you want a super Canada deal, don't you? Well, it took 7 years to negotiate that with Canada. They won't want to start negotiating even if we signed up to the agreement for the first 12 months, because they'll be reorganising after their European elections. So you're looking at 8 years, 9 years, we'll be in the backstop. And as Mark quite rightly pointed out, David Livingstone let the cat out of the bag and confirmed what we already knew, that the Prime Minister had been misleading us for a long time when she told us we could get a free trade agreement, because the only way they're going to let us out the backstop is through a customs union, and even that will be subject to 27 vetoes, where Spain will want Gibraltar, the French will want our fish, Republic of Ireland will probably want Northern Ireland, and everything else. Why, oh why, would any politician want to put his name to a treaty which could run till 2099, which forces our country into vassalage? Ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't matter how many times the Prime Minister or anybody else brings back that withdrawal agreement, I promise you, I will never, ever sign our country up to that. On the way in here, a couple of delegates from the Beaconsfield constituency spoke to me. I spoke there about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I think it was interesting. It was quite just about. I spoke. They got a very good reception in Beaconsfield, Conservatives. It was about a week after I spoke that they voted no confidence in their member. Actually, let us forget that I believe in Brexit. I'm a Brexiteer. I believe in the sovereignty of the UK. Let's just look at where we are in the pure politics of all of this. We've got 52-48. The referendum was won by. No one's really changed their mind. In fact, quite a lot of reasonable Remainers in my seat have said to me, the way the European Union have treated us over the last 2.5 years, it is clear that we now have to leave. Other people, because to return to the European Union or remain in would be like returning to an abusive relationship. They would never ever believe us when we said, well, we're not happy about this. Well, you didn't leave when you had the chance, did you? And others who believe in democracy said, yes, well, I voted to remain, but leave won. So we must implement that decision, because on another vote, I might win. In which case, then I would expect you to implement that decision. So no one's really changed their mind. In the 48% now, we've got the Labour Party, who've become more Europhile, pushing for a second referendum with Keir Starmer's help. You've got the Liberal Democrats, second referendum. You've got the SNP and Plaid Cymru, who basically want to revoke Article 50, no Brexit. You've got Change UK want a second referendum, or whatever the name is this week. I don't know. I don't know. So what we've actually got is, for a Eurosceptic Conservative Party delivering Brexit, we've got 52%. And we're not far away from a general election. The situation over in the House of Commons, with our majority, working majority, down to 3, with the support of the DUP, I think it's almost impossible that we're going to get out of the next 6 months without being forced to have a general election. So where do we want to position? Just purely on the political mathematics, where should we be positioning the Conservative Party? We need to go for that 52%, because nature abhors a vacuum, ladies and gentlemen. We either occupy that ground as the Conservative Party, or it will be occupied by somebody else. And whether that's Nigel Farage and his Brexit party, UKIP resurgent, that's the situation we're going to find ourselves in. I had a fascinating, interesting email sent to me by a constituent the other day, which I think I'd like to share with you, which sort of summed up the situation. And it simply said that is it Stockholm Syndrome? Is it Stockholm Syndrome? It said we're on the turkey farm, and for the first time in 46 years, the gate is open, but it appears that the turkeys want to get a withdrawal agreement with the farmer before they leave. What is going on? So I was asked by some of your delegates on the way in here that we wanted some hope. Well, I'll give you my vision of where I think the hope lies. We need to remove Theresa May as soon as possible. She's already done enough damage. She needs to be replaced by someone who believes in Brexit and wants to deliver Brexit. And what we need, I think, if we have a Brexiteer in charge of the Conservative Party, given the fractious nature of our politics and internal party wrangling at the moment, I'm afraid I think we'll probably lose some colleagues from the parliamentary party. That means we will lose our majority, and we are heading for a general election. We will never get Brexit through that parliament with those MPs. We are going to have to go back to the people. It's not going to be, it will be a people's vote, but it's going to be a general election. Yes. And what we need is genuine Eurosceptic Conservative candidates who believe in Brexit and will vote it through, when I believe we'll be resoundingly returned into government to deliver on our democracy, saving our country, saving our democracy, and saving the Conservative Party. Yes. And if you want a vision of it, is that the spirit of the British people, the political elite, the civil servant, they may be cowed by 46 years of subservience to our EU masters, and the Prime Minister's out there now begging for an extension, when she should be telling them, we're leaving on Friday, and unless you want to come to me with something better, we're leaving on Friday with no deal and you don't get any money. My vision of hope is what it always is the people we represent, the people of Great Britain, and their indefatigable courage, which we see demonstrated again and again. The fact is, there's 3.5 million EU migrants who, despite the fact that we're leaving the European Union, wish to maintain their home in our country. That is a huge boost of confidence to us. And I only wish, and I hope in the future, we'll have MPs, 650 MPs, elected in that House to share their confidence and the indefatigable spirit of the British people in our future post-Brexit. Thank you very much.